Hello, and welcome to another episode of Your Message podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about overcoming fear of travel with your baby. When you are listening to this episode, Jackson and I are actually on our way to Colorado with Beckley in tow. We are in the middle of a big trip for the weekend, so I am in it. I am currently traveling with our baby, and this is not the first trip that we've made. Jackson and I have made many trips with Beckley in her first year of life, and we feel that we've really worked very hard to overcome that fear of traveling with your baby. So if you are someone who wants to travel with your baby, or maybe you don't have a baby yet, but you know that you will want to travel when you do have a baby, or perhaps you're just very afraid of this whole traveling with a baby thing, especially flying with a baby, then this is your episode. I feel like I just said baby and travel so much. Oh my word. I don't want to say take a shot. Take a drink of water every time you hear me say travel with a baby. Oh, can you hear Sully scratching himself in the background? If you struggle with any of those situations that I described, then this is the episode for you, and keep on listening. Hi friend, and welcome to the Message podcast. I'm your host, Katie Graham, a wedding photographer and lifestyle blogger who just launched my own magazine, Your Message Mag. I'm determined to help women just like you lean into the messes of their lives and find the message they have to share. Here we believe that secrecy helps no one, but transparency and vulnerability have the potential to help many. Get ready for some encouragement, to be inspired, and to be given all the tools you need to share the unique message you have to share with those who need to hear it most. This is the Message Podcast. Do you know what your love language is? My love language is definitely gift giving. I love giving gifts, and my favorite way to give gifts is purchasing gifts through Artifact Uprising, an online printing company where you can create customized gifts for those that you love. Throughout the whole year being a new mom, I've had parents and in-laws asking for their gifts to be photos of Beckley, and Artifact Uprising makes that super simple. Plus, for my dad on Father's Day, since it was his first Father's Day as a grandpa, I created a personalized board book full of pictures of him and Beckley straight off of my phone. Nothing fancy, guys. And Artifact Uprising makes it super simple to upload those photos, add them to a book template, and then print it, order it, and so it's ready to go to give to the ones that you love. I have a lot of friends ask me where I recommend getting photo books or printing, and if you're looking to do it yourself, the DIY method, then Artifact Uprising is always the place that I recommend. This is even the place where I go to purchase gifts that I get for my couples. Go to katielaurengraham.com/Artifact Uprising for $20 off your first order. Again, that is katielaurengraham.com/Artifact Uprising for $20 off your first order. You can also click the link in my show notes. So today we're going to be talking about overcoming fear of traveling with your baby. So I'm going to give you some quick context as to why I feel like I can talk about this. We have traveled a lot with Beckley, and she is not yet a year old. She won't be a year until February 5th. So we've still got about a week and a half before she hits that 1 year mark. And in this first year of life, she's currently, as you're listening to this, on her way to Colorado. She's gone to the Outer Banks. She's gone to Hilton Head. She's gone to Georgia, Lake Lanier area twice. She's been to Chicago. She went on a trip into Ohio to visit my college to help my sister move in, where she's now going. She has made many trips, and we have not shied away from making trips with her. And this was something that Jackson and I were very intentional and very purposeful about. Jackson and I, we love traveling. We love vacations. We love going somewhere new. This is something that is very important to us, and we've really made an effort to do a lot in our marriage and our relationship. And we knew that we didn't want to stop that when we had Beckley. And we had heard from my parents specifically quite often that the easiest time to go traveling with a kid is when they're fresh, when they're brand new, when they're really young. And I would second that. I would say that the traveling with her when she was super young, yes, it felt like you were packing your entire house to go because you need so much stuff, but it was so easy. And we had heard that so many times from my parents and a few select friends who had traveled a lot with their child that the earlier you start, the easier it is, and the more often you do it, the easier it gets, and your kid just grows up used to travel. And so we'd heard this and we thought, okay, well, that makes logical sense. We'll just start really young, we'll start traveling, and we just we'll put our foot on the gas and we won't lay off. And so that's what we did. Another portion of why we felt so strongly that we wanted to travel with Beckley is, and this is getting honest with you guys, Jackson and I, actually, he's the same way as me, but I'm only going to speak for myself because he's not here to speak for himself. We react very strongly to challenges. We thrive when we have a challenge, when we have a goal. And for me specifically, when somebody tells me that I can't do something, or that something is going to be too difficult, or that, you're not going to want to do that because of X, Y, and Z, I see that as a challenge. And my gut reaction to that is, oh, well then watch me do it. Like, that's just my gut reaction. And that's being very honest with you guys. Typically, if someone tells me that something's going to be too difficult to do, I immediately want to do that thing. And Jackson is very similar in that way. Not the exact same, but very similar. And so we had heard from several people that, traveling with a baby is too difficult. You don't want to do it. Like, get all your traveling in now, because once you have a kid, you're not going to want to do it. And I'm sure you've heard somebody else say this as well. And every time we heard somebody say something like that, it made us want to travel all the more with Beckley, specifically travel with Beckley all the more. And it like lit a fire under us and made us say, okay, we're going to do this. And what we did, which, I'm gonna tell this story, but this goes with my first bit of advice that I would really give for you when it comes to if you have fear with traveling with a baby, is to just dive in. Do not give yourself any excuses. Do not give yourself an easy way out. Just dive in and immerse yourself in the experience. The first time is going to be really scary and you're going to feel like you're in over your head a little bit, but oh my goodness, it is so worth it. So the story that goes along with this first piece of advice is when Jackson and I were, it was before we had given birth to Beckley. I want to say I was maybe 7 months along, 6 or 7 months along, and we knew that we were going to want to take a spring vacation. Jackson works in the school system, so he gets like traditional spring breaks. Like those kinds of times are the best times for him to take time off of work because there aren't kids in the building. So we knew we wanted to do some kind of special vacation for like spring break time. And we were toying with the idea of going to Hilton Head for about a week and then going down to Jackson's grandparents who live a few hours from Hilton Head and kind of doing a combo trip, just do something fun like that. And specifically get somewhere warm. We live in Western New York where from basically December to March, it is very cold, it is very gray, and it's beautiful, but it starts to wear on you towards the end of winter. And we know historically that we are far better off if we are able to sneak in a trip to a warmer climate somewhere in that time when back home, here at home, it's quite cold and gray. We find that our mental health is much better if we're able to sneak in a warm trip like that. And so we thought, well, we know we're going to be huddled up, like hunkered down because it's going to be cold. We're going to have a newborn. We're not going to be doing very much outside, so it's going to feel especially isolating in Western New York. We really want to make sure we're able to get a trip into a warmer climate in. So at about 6 or 7 months of pregnancy, we booked a condo in Hilton Head for, I think it was 10 days. And we said, we're going, and we booked a condo that was big enough that it could host all of my family if they wanted to join. And we basically extended the invitation to them and said like, hey, we've booked this condo. If you want to join, you're welcome to for like 2 days, 3 days, the whole time, whatever you want to do. If you can't make it, no hard feelings, but there's space for you if you want it. And we booked this condo and we said, okay, we're doing it. And there was a clause in the agreement where I think it was like free cancellation up to like a week before the vacation. Jackson would remember the details better than me, but I think it was something like that. So we knew that if we were like really in over our head and we got closer to the vacation and we were like, we cannot do this, we could cancel, but we were really adamant that we wanted to do this trip. And we booked it before we even had the baby. Before Beckley even arrived, because we knew that if we let her arrive and we got into the newborn stage, we'd seen it with other people where the newborn stage, it's an isolating bubble and it just feels like you are trying to tread water and keep your head above the waves. And we had seen that, and that played out true. Like the newborn season is very difficult, and we did not want our decision to go on a vacation to be altered because of what we were feeling in a difficult season, which would be the newborn season. So we just went ahead and booked that vacation and said, we're going, we're doing it. And we were planning that at the time, Beckley, if she was born on her due date, she would be just over 2 months old when we would go on the vacation. Now, Beckley went late. She went about, I think it was exactly a week past her due date. And so she was actually just under 2 months when we went on the vacation, and she had her 2-month birthday while we were there in Hilton Head. But we just dove in. We gave ourselves no options. We pre-planned. We booked the trip before she had even arrived because we didn't want the fear to alter our decision. And we ended up having all of my family being able to join. Even my sister, who was living in Hawaii at the time, she ended up surprising us there. So we ended up having a ton of help on that trip, which was great. But even for the days where I think we had 2 days where it was just us and there was no family there. And then we had a few days where it was just my sister and my brother-in-law, and they were there. And then my parents joined with my other sister, and then eventually my third sister joined. And even on the days where it was just Jackson and I, it was fine. Guys, it was great. We were in this warmer climate. We were able to get that mental health reset that we needed. We had this great condo to ourselves. We picked a spot specifically with great walkways. It was close access to the beach. And this is going to lead me to my second piece of advice that I would give beyond just diving in. And that is, do research into where you're staying and be very particular about where you're staying. Stay somewhere that you know is going to work for you. So we look for places that, if possible, Beckley can have her own room, or at a minimum, there's plenty of space for a pack and play in the room we'd be staying in. We look for a place that has great places to walk, great walkways, because Beckley, she loves going for walks, and if she's getting fussy or a little upset, that's a great way to kind of calm her down, is going for a walk. And because we knew we wanted to be by the beach, we picked a spot that was within a very reasonable walking distance of the beach. We were very intentional about where we were staying, and there were places that were cheaper, definitely cheaper, but we didn't want to stay there because we felt that you had to go upstairs to get into the place, and we felt like with a baby and a stroller and everything, that would just make it too difficult, or any variety of reasons that we decided, okay, we're not going to stay there. And we ended up picking this spot it was more expensive, but it worked out so well for us. So that would be another tip, is to be intentional about where you're staying and really do your research into what it's like there and what's available around that place. The third piece of advice I would give is to, before you leave on the trip, do crazy research into every tip on the book that you can find for traveling with your baby. So for this trip in particular to Hilton Head, we were driving. And so I was looking up every tip I could find online for driving with a baby, driving with a newborn, how to time rest stops with feeds and changes, how to have your car set up, how to have your trunk set up so that it's maximum efficiency for making those stops quick. We did tons of research into what we felt we needed to do to make this car trip as smooth as possible. And thankfully, it paid off. The car ride was amazing. Beckley did great, and we had a really good system, and we felt like we did a really good job. And if you are looking for maybe what we did and want to know what our tips would be for driving with a baby, flying with a baby, all that, go to my blog, www.katielaurengraham.com, and I have multiple blog posts breaking down my tips for traveling with a baby. Go check those out, because I basically wrote down everything that I would recommend. But when we flew with Beckley twice to Georgia, or no, we only flew once to Georgia. We drove another time to Georgia. That was a long car ride, but it went well. Really well. But when we flew with her to Georgia, We looked up every trick in the book for how to fly with a baby, how to prevent the whole like ear popping situation, how to make sure she wouldn't get uncomfortable, like all that stuff. And now I'm currently in the process of looking up every trick in the book I can find for when we fly on Thursday to Colorado. Because as you're listening to this, I've said a few times now, we're going to Colorado, and that's a 3-hour flight. And Beckley is now past the point where she can nap in our arms. Like, she cannot nap if she's sitting in our arms. And so we're looking up all the tricks for flying smoothly with a toddler. And that is a huge tip or trick that you cannot skip, is researching and finding nuggets of wisdom that other people can provide for you. Find people who have done this before you and ask them questions and look at what resources they have available online if they have them, and just immerse yourself. And then the fourth tip would be buy all the gadgets. Whatever you can afford to get without going overboard for this trip, get it. Get new toys for in the car. I'm getting a few new toys for on the plane. Get the snacks. If there's a specific gadget that they recommend to like make your baby more comfortable in the car, then get that gadget. Like, prepare for whatever situation, because the more prepared you are for X, Y, and Z, the more confident you're going to feel and the less fearful you're going to be if those situations come up, or fear of them coming up eventually. Definitely, like, when you're traveling, this is your time to don't play it cheap. Just if there's a specific gadget that people swear by, just get it. And if you don't use it, then sell it afterwards. Like, leave it in the box. Don't open it unless you have to use it. And if you don't use it, then sell it. And no harm, no done. No harm done. So those are just some really easy tips that I would give for traveling with a baby and overcoming that fear of traveling with a baby. But honestly, the biggest tip is the first one, to just dive in and give yourself no excuses. Just go for it and commit to traveling with your baby, because the more often you do it, the less scary it'll be and the easier it'll become, and the more used to it your baby will be. Okay, if you found this podcast episode to be helpful, let me know on Instagram. Go find me at Katie Lauren Graham and shoot me a DM. Let me know that you enjoyed it. And let me read for you a review that I saw that was left last Thursday. Smiley KA793 says, Katie has such an incredible demeanor and heart for the Lord. She's also realistic and very practical at the same time. Her podcast does not fall short of this, as she offers encouragement, practical how-tos, and challenges you to greater Christ-likeness. This podcast has a variety of lifestyle tips and faith content, and I couldn't recommend more. Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much to whoever left that review. It means the world to me. I've said it in the past several episodes, but reviews, they really do make my day, and they light a fire under me to keep recording these episodes and provide whatever insights I can to hopefully help you or encourage you. So if you enjoyed this episode, please take the time, leave a review. I read all of them, I see them, and I appreciate them. So that would mean the world to me. Again, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, then let me know on Instagram. Maybe share it on Instagram or Facebook so other moms or people who are expecting, if they're feeling fear towards traveling, it might bring them some encouragement. And again, if you're looking for resources for how to have a road trip with a baby or fly with a baby, go to my blog, check out the blog posts I have, because I know I have several about traveling with a baby. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye. Have you ever felt like you're called to more in life? Do you desire to encourage others? Have you experienced a mess in life that you wish to share with others to help them grow and feel less alone? I created Your Message Mag for driven, encouraging, and servant-hearted people just like you. Your Message Mag is my new lifestyle magazine focused on bringing encouragement and inspiration into the lives of others through impactful storytelling and seasonal content. Each issue features guest writers with powerful, impactful stories to tell. Get ready to experience the first magazine you'll not only read cover to cover, but will also change your life. Subscribe to Your Message Mag at yourmessagemag.com. Again, go to yourmessagemag.com to get your first copy. The link is also in the show notes. Thanks for listening to the Your Message podcast. Did you enjoy today's episode? If so, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast and leave a review if you haven't already. This really helps with encouraging the podcast apps to share this with other people to maximize our impact so we can help as many people as possible. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to screenshot this episode and share it on Instagram. Make sure to tag me at Katie Lauren Graham so I can share in the excitement with you. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.